Not all pain is the same. Some pass with time. Others leave deep, invisible marks that change the way you see life. There are experiences that do not only wound emotions, but pierce the soul. When this happens, you realize that something was taken away, but also that something new began to be born inside of you. The chosen ones recognized this kind of trial. It was not just a difficult period, it was a turning point. After it, you were never the same again. Certainties crumbled, relationships fell apart, plans lost meaning. And yet you continued. Not by external force, but because something inside refused to give up. This test does not come for just anyone. It arises when the soul needs to grow beyond what a comfortable life would allow. It is not punishment, it is preparation. During this process, everything fragile falls. Everything that was not true dissolves. What remains is essential, even if at first it seems only like silence and exhaustion. Perhaps you haven't named what you've lived through. Perhaps you only know that something was profoundly difficult and transformative. If you feel that you have become more conscious, more selective, more sensitive, and at the same time stronger, this is not by chance. These are signs of someone who has crossed the most intense test of their own soul. My name is George, and on this channel, I speak to people who have gone through deep trials and are awakening to who they truly are. If you recognize yourself in this journey, follow the channel and stay with us. Here, the chosen ones find words for what they lived in silence. 1. A deep peace emerged where there was once chaos. After the most painful phase, something inside you changed quietly. It was not a conscious decision, nor a planned effort. It simply happened. What once was constant tension gave way to a more stable internal state. Even with problems still present, despair no longer controls your reactions. Before, your mind seemed to have no rest, thoughts repeated, always anticipating losses, mistakes, or failures. The body lived in alert, as if something bad were about to happen at any moment. After crossing the soul's test, this internal alarm was turned off, not by technique, but because the chaos fulfilled its role. This peace does not mean that life has become easy. Challenges continue to exist. Difficult decisions still arise. The difference is that now you do not lose yourself in them. There is a firm internal axis that supports your actions. Emotions no longer dominate everything as they did before. You feel, but you do not sink. The most striking thing is that this tranquility does not depend on external circumstances. Even amid uncertainty, there is stability inside. You realize that you can face whatever comes without collapsing. Confidence does not come from control, but from the experience of having already survived the worst. You react differently. Situations that would have caused panic before are now faced with more clarity. Fear has lost its place of command. It still exists, but it no longer rules. This change happens because something was purified during the trial. The body reflects this. Breathing becomes more natural. Tension decreases. Sleep improves, even if imperfect. The body understands that the threat has passed. It recognizes the crossing even before the mind formulates words. This peace is not apathy or resignation. It is presence. You continue to act, choose, and live, but without that constant weight in your chest. The excess has fallen away. The essential has remained. When this happens, you no longer run from yourself. Silence stops being uncomfortable. Being alone no longer scares you. You have learned to inhabit your own consciousness. This is one of the clearest signs of someone who has crossed the most difficult test of their soul. 2. Toxic people and situations left your life on their own. After the great trial, your life began to reorganize naturally. Relationships that once seemed indispensable began to dissolve. People who drained your energy distanced themselves. Heavy environments stopped being part of your daily life. All this happened without direct confrontations. You didn't need to argue, accuse, or justify yourself. You simply no longer fit in certain places. Your energy changed. And when that happens, what is not in alignment cannot remain. Separation happens in silence. Some people gradually disappeared. Others distanced themselves suddenly. There were relationships that ended without much explanation. The most surprising thing was realizing that, instead of emptiness, relief appeared. An internal space began to open up. Situations that once drained your vitality also lost strength. Work, obligations, and commitments accepted under pressure stopped making sense. You began to say no without guilt. You began to choose more consciously where to place your energy. This did not make you cold. It made you conscious. You understood that your peace has value, that your energy cannot be wasted trying to sustain relationships that diminish you. This lesson came after the pain, not before. The most important thing is that you didn't need to force anything out. Life did it for you. The trial created a natural filter. What was true stayed. What was based on lack, fear, or dependence fell away. Some departures hurt at first. Not all were easy. But over time it became clear that they were necessary. People who couldn't withstand your most difficult phase wouldn't be able to sustain your more conscious version. Today your life may seem simpler in terms of the number of relationships, but it is lighter. The noise has decreased. The environment around you aligns more with who you have become. This cleansing was not a loss. It was alignment, a clear sign of deep transformation. 3. You stopped seeking external validation. Before the test, many of your decisions went through the eyes of others. You wondered what they would think, if they would approve, if they would accept. Much of the choices were shaped to avoid judgment. This was exhausting, but it seemed necessary. After the soul's test, this need lost its strength. You did not stop listening to opinions, but you stopped depending on them. The reference became internal. You learned that no one lives your life for you. The pain you went through taught this clearly. When everything falls apart, there is no audience, only you and your consciousness. And that encounter changes everything. You realize that pleasing everyone costs too much. Today, you trust more in what you feel than in what others say. If something makes sense to you, that is enough. If it doesn't, no external approval convinces you. This freedom doesn't come from arrogance. It comes from maturity. You stopped justifying yourself all the time. You no longer feel the need to explain every choice. Those who understand, understand. Those who don't, go down another path. This brought lightness and saved energy. Comparisons have also lost their strength. Other people's success does not diminish you. The pace of others no longer pressures you. You respect your own time and process. Without the search for validation, you become truer. Your actions become more coherent. You no longer act to be accepted. You act to be true to yourself. This change transforms relationships, work, and important decisions. You no longer live based on external expectations. You live from your own truth. Stopping the search for validation is a quiet liberation, and it only happens after the soul goes through something great enough to show that the only indispensable approval is your own. 4. Synchronicities began to happen frequently. After you crossed the most difficult test of your soul, something curious began to happen. Situations that once seemed random began to fit together with precision. People show up at the exact moment you need them. Answers appear when you were about to give up. Paths open without excessive effort. These coincidences are not common. They have a sense of almost perfect timing. You think of someone, and that person contacts you. You need direction, and you hear the right phrase, spoken by someone unexpected. It is not fantasy or exaggeration. It is expanded perception. During the most painful phase, it seemed like you were walking in the dark. No signs, no confirmation, no visible help. It was as if life had silenced. This was part of the test. You needed to learn to follow, even without external guarantees. Now, on the other side, the signs begin to appear again. The difference is that now you can see them. Before, perhaps they were even present, but you didn't have the internal clarity to notice. With more stable consciousness, you notice patterns, repetitions, and alignments that before went unnoticed. Repeated numbers, improbable encounters, opportunities that arise without excessive struggle. All this begins to feel familiar, not as something distant or mystical, but as a silent dialogue between you and life. You realize that there is an intelligence organizing the events. Synchronicities work as silent confirmations. They don't explain everything, but they reassure you. They show that you are not disconnected, that there is coherence between what you feel inside and what happens outside. The more you recognize these signs with gratitude, the more frequent they become. Not because you control them, but because you begin to walk in tune with the flow of life. This is one of the clearest marks of someone who has passed through the soul's test and emerged aligned. Life begins to respond more directly to your conscious presence. 5. You developed compassion for those who hurt you. After crossing the deepest pain, something unexpected happens. Anger loses intensity. The desire for revenge disappears. Not because you forgot what happened, but because you began to see beyond the surface of others' actions. You begin to realize that many people act from unresolved wounds. Those who hurt are almost always hurt. Those who betray, abandon, or diminish usually carry pains they don't know how to face. This understanding does not justify what they did, but it changes the way you relate to it. Before, resentment took up space. You relived situations, imagined responses, fed internal dialogues. This consumed energy and kept you tied to the past. After the test, this weight begins to dissolve. Compassion arises naturally. It is not a moral effort nor a spiritual obligation. It is a deep understanding that everyone is dealing with their own limits. You recognize the pain of others without placing yourself above them. This does not mean that you allow abuse or return to toxic relationships. Quite the opposite. Compassion comes with clear boundaries. You distance yourself without hatred, without drama, without the need for punishment. Forgiveness happens as a consequence of this clarity. It is not something you force. It simply happens when you realize that holding on to grudges only prolongs the pain within you. Forgiving becomes an act of self-care. You look at the world with different eyes. Instead of judging quickly, you observe. Instead of reacting, you understand. This does not make you weak, it makes you lucid. Compassion is not born of naivety, but of experience. Only those who have crossed their own darkness can recognize the darkness in others without fear. This is a deep mark of spiritual transformation. When anger gives way to understanding, you know that something essential has been healed within you. 6. Your intuition has become clear and trustworthy. Before the test, you could feel premonitions, a sensation in your body, a silent alert, but you almost always doubted it. The mind questioned, fear confused, and the opinions of others muffled this inner voice. Many times you ignored the intuition and paid the price later. After crossing the soul's test, this voice becomes clear. There is no noise. There is no confusion. You simply know. You do not need to explain or justify. The body recognizes it before the mind. Intuition begins to manifest physically. A knot in your stomach when something isn't right. A feeling of expansion in your chest when the path is true. These responses become reliable because they are no longer mixed with anxiety or lack. During the test, many false layers fell away. Fears, masks, others' expectations. This silent process cleared the internal channel. Now, the voice of the soul finds space to express itself without interference. You begin to make decisions with more certainty. Even when the choice does not seem logical to others, you trust. And over time, you realize you were right. This confidence does not come from arrogance, but from experience. You quickly recognize people. You know who belongs on your path and who does not. You don't need long explanations. The body signals. The energy speaks. This intuition does not make you impulsive. It guides your actions with clarity. You still think, plan, and evaluate. But now everything is guided by a deeper, internal wisdom. You also learn to respect when intuition asks for a pause. It is not always time to act. Sometimes it is time to wait. And you trust that timing. The people around you may not understand your decisions, but you no longer feel the need to convince them. You know where your certainty comes from. Having clear intuition is one of the greatest outcomes for someone who has passed through the most difficult test of the soul. You are no longer lost. There is an internal compass working with precision, and it knows exactly where to guide you. 7. Loneliness stopped being a fear. At some point after the most difficult test of your soul, loneliness changed its meaning. Before, it scared you. Silence seemed heavy. Being alone triggered anxiety, excessive thoughts, and the feeling of emptiness. You sought distractions, company, or anything to avoid this encounter with yourself. After the crossing, something inside adjusted. You began to tolerate silence. Then you started to accept it, until, at some point, you realized that your own company was not a problem. On the contrary, it became a safe place. You learned to be with yourself without constantly judging yourself, without needing to fill every space with noise, conversation, or external validation. Being alone stopped being abandonment and became presence. This change transformed the way you relate. You no longer accept emotional crumbs just to avoid being alone. You no longer stay in empty relationships out of fear of absence. You prefer true silence to a company that drains you. Curiously, when the need disappears, something new happens. More aligned connections begin to emerge. People who respect your space, your depth, and your truth begin to approach. Not out of lack, but out of affinity. These relationships are different. Fewer in number, but more real. They do not require constant effort to maintain. They flow because they are born from wholeness, not from lack. You discover that conscious loneliness does not isolate. It strengthens, it filters, it prepares you for more genuine encounters. Learning to be alone is one of the clearest signs of emotional and spiritual maturity. You no longer need someone to feel whole. And precisely because of this, you begin to share your life with more awareness. 8. Self-destructive patterns lost strength. Before the test, you had habits that acted as an escape. Repetitive behaviors, automatic impulses, emotional addictions, or routines that pulled you away from yourself. Many times you knew that it was not good, but you couldn't stop. After the crossing, something changed. It was not a battle. There was no forced effort. It simply stopped making sense. The desire disappeared. The compulsion lost its strength. What once dominated you no longer calls to you. Not because you forbade yourself, but because you no longer find pleasure in it. Consciousness has taken the place of escape. You realize that many of these patterns existed to numb pain, fear, or emptiness. When these wounds began to heal, the behavior lost its function. There was nothing left to escape from. This happens from the inside out. It is not rigid discipline. It is genuine disinterest. You choose differently because you feel differently. The energy that was once drained by self-destructive habits is now available. You feel more present, more whole, more conscious of your own choices. This change brings self-respect. You no longer sabotage yourself as before. You no longer put yourself in situations that hurt you repeatedly. You recognize your limits and honor them. Breaking patterns is not becoming someone else. It is stopping the self-violence. It is choosing what sustains, not what consumes. This is a silent but powerful sign that the transformation was real. 9. You forgave yourself for the past. After everything you've lived through, guilt began to lose strength. Not all at once, but gradually. You stopped punishing yourself for past choices. You stopped reliving decisions with the desire to have acted differently. You began to understand that you did the best you could with the awareness you had at that moment. That many choices were born from pain, fear, or lack of maturity, not from the intention to go wrong. This understanding brought lightness. An old weight began to dissolve. Constant self-criticism gave way to a more compassionate view of yourself. You look at who you were with understanding, not contempt. You recognize the effort, even when there were failures. You honor the person who survived when they didn't know how to act better. This forgiveness does not erase the past, but it frees you from it. You are no longer stuck in the old version of yourself. You recognize the evolution. By forgiving yourself, you become more present. You no longer live trying to compensate for old mistakes. You live choosing better now. This self-respect changes everything. The way you treat yourself influences what you accept, what you build, and what you allow in your life. Forgiving yourself is one of the deepest steps in healing. When this happens, you stop carrying the past as a burden and begin to use it as a learning experience. This is a clear sign that the test is over. You not only survived, but you have now reconstructed yourself with awareness. 10. You renew yourself every day. After the hardest test of your soul, you feel that life has become a constant renewal. It's not that you've become a new person overnight, but there is something deep inside of you that is no longer the same. The lessons you learned during the process of transformation are now part of who you are. The old fear of change has disappeared. You realize that you are no longer running from the flow of life, but rather allowing it to happen naturally. Before, resistance was constant. You held on to the past, trying to preserve things and people that no longer aligned with your new path. Now you understand that change is inevitable, and, more importantly, desirable. 11. Your connection to purpose became clear. Now, more than ever, you know exactly what you are doing here. Your connection to the purpose of life has become clear. What once seemed vague or distant is now a shining beacon that guides you with confidence. There are no longer doubts or uncertainties dominating your mind, but a quiet certainty that you are on the right path. You finally understood that you do not need to look for a great external purpose. The purpose has always been inside you. Every experience, every challenge, and even the most intense difficulties serve to reveal what you came here to do in this world. The discovery of who you really are is the key to fully accessing that purpose. Now you act according to a deeper mission that transcends everyday concerns. The choices you make are more aligned with your true essence. You no longer lose yourself in external worries. Instead, you are focused on serving, creating, expressing your authenticity, and making a meaningful difference in the world around you. Your life is no longer a sequence of reactions to events, but a conscious creation. You choose your path based on what makes sense to your soul, not on what is expected of you or what others value. You know you are here to contribute in a unique way, and because of that you begin to do so with passion and clarity. The feeling of living aligned with your purpose brings undeniable peace. You are no longer lost, trying to figure out what to do or who to be. You simply are who you came here to be, and that state of being is all that matters. This eliminates anxiety about the future. You know that by acting with integrity and love, you are fulfilling your mission, regardless of the obstacles that may arise. This is the definitive sign that the most painful test of your soul is truly over. You not only overcame the challenges, but now you are living your truth. The purpose is no longer a search. It is already manifested in everything you do, and that, in itself, is the greatest achievement of all. We have reached the end of this transformation journey. If you identified with the marks I shared here, know that the real change has already occurred within you. What seemed impossible has been overcome, and now you are a stronger, more connected, and more self-aware version of yourself. I would like to know, which of these marks resonated most with you? How have you experienced your own evolution? Comment below and share your experience, as each story is an inspiration for all of us. I am here to accompany your journey. Let's continue together.